Thank you, Chair. Just within the minutes last time on page 2, under Chairman's announcements, the last paragraph refers to a question I asked of the leader. The final sentence says the Chairman indicated that a written response would be sent. I sent a reminder to her around about New Year's Eve. I still haven't had a reply. This is becoming a pattern of failure to reply to letters, inquiries, etc. from myself. Most particularly, a question and report submitted to the leader with a copy to yourself, Councillor Andre and Councillor Love regarding issues within my ward of Pan and Barton. 6 months later, I have still not had a response, and in fact I've had a denial from you you'd even received it, despite the fact you acknowledged it back at the beginning of August. Can I have some form of assurance that I'm going to start getting replies to questions I ask of this administration? Thank you very much.
Most definitely, Councillor Brodie. If it was an oversight by myself, I apologise. But what I will say is that your ward, along with every other ward on this island, is of deep concern to the Alliance Group and indeed the administration and the Isle of Wight Council as a whole. And obviously, we are prepared to work with ward councillors on initiatives if you bring them forward. And in actual fact, Councillor Brodie, I'm prepared to work with you and see what we can raise in what the requirements are within your ward, and indeed start some initiatives up. We're looking also at gaining some funding, but that's still to be ratified and brought forward from the sector that we're looking at, and hopefully we can start some initiatives off. I'm very keen to start initiatives within your ward, but I think that, you know, as I do within Ride West, I've got things going on such as community nature reserve and area, organised litter picks and what have you. And I'm quite prepared to come and assist you with starting similar elements and facilities up for locals to participate in as and when we move those things forward. So fully appreciate what you're saying, and if there's a delay in corresponding with you, then we'll rectify that in the future.
If I could just come back very briefly, and thank you for that, Councillor Stevens. All I would say to you is that I've heard similar statements repeatedly. However, at the Health and Wellbeing Board back at the end of July, I was asked by the leader to submit a report of the sort of things I thought would help. She had that within 2 or 3 days. I think it would have been a mark of respect to me to have responded and to give me something in writing, because I have spent 17 years battling for my ward, achieving quite a lot, but my ward remains the most deprived on the Isle of Wight, and any administration should be ashamed by that. All I'm asking for is written replies. Warm words are all well and good, but they've got no parsnips in a phrase that you'll all be familiar with. I'd like something in writing. Thank you very much.
Take forward your request, and we will be adhering to it, I can assure you. Councillor Andre.
Thank you, Chair. In response to Councillor Brodie, I would apologise for not getting back to him before now, but I can assure you that in response to your items relating to the education, and I'm very much in agreement with the proposals that Councillor Brodie put forward in terms of expanding our adult community learning offer to upskill people. I've actually been in touch with my team, and I am currently waiting for a date for a Teams meeting to which Councillor Brodie will be invited. So I apologise for not updating you in the interim, but I would like to assure you that I am working on a response to you so that we can set up a Teams meeting where we can actually further that. Thank you, Councillor Brody. Thank you, Chair.
Sorry,
Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Jordan.
Thank you, Ian. Just to, for my part, I'd like to thank Councillor Brody, for alerting me to, whilst it was a full council meeting, it was nonetheless a question answered at full council in November, and we offered a written reply, and that hasn't been sent yet. Just to comfort Councillor Brody in that a written reply will be sent in the next day or so, and certainly for next Wednesday's full council. And thank you, Councillor Brody, for alerting me to the slowness of that.
Thank you, Councillor Jordan. I'll move on to item 2 on the agenda, declarations of interest. Members to declare any interest they might have in matters on the agenda. Councillor Jones-Evans.
Thank you, Chair. Just on the item for the consultation on Newport Harbour, I'm the local member for the western side of the harbour.
Thank you. We'll move on to public question time. Written questions. We're going to move those into the papers that are going to be presented, I believe. So we'll take that forward.
We haven't had any public questions. Those are members' questions.
Right, thank you. No public questions. Moving on then. Yeah, I'll repeat that. I've been busy with my own portfolio, but obviously I've been deputising at various meetings for the leader. These are ongoing meetings to assist with the running of the council and the forward direction of the alliance group and administration, taking things forward and changing direction in a positive manner. I would say that I've just heard that the Police and Crime Commissioner's Office have released a press statement with regard to the Hampshire Constabulary aligning themselves with more readily with the Isle of Wight through the name, which is now going to be called the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Constabulary. So that's good news, and I think that we've been pressing for it. I know the previous administration was pressing for it, so that's good news all round. So that's the bit of news that I've got. But I want to move on to item 4, which is the report from the Cabinet Member for Regeneration, Business Development and Tourism, and we've got items A and B within that. Would you like to come in straight away on that?
Yeah.
Yes.
A note from the agenda that there's no apologies on the agenda in terms of the minutes, but I do need to give my apologies. I need to leave at 5:30 in order to go and chair a meeting at the East Coast Town Council, unfortunately.
You're quite right, Councillor Love, and I would like to obviously offer the apologies for Councillor PC Wilcox, who is absent at this time and resting up somewhere, no doubt, ready to take the reins in the coming days. Back to the agenda item 5, and it's name change. Item 5A is name change of Fairway's athletics track, and then 5B is Newport Harbour.
Thank you very much, Chair. So it's on page 25. It's a very straightforward and concise report. The Isle of Wight Council was just responding to the Fairways Athletics Centre request to change the name to the Ray Scoville Athletics Centre in honour of the amazing work that Ray did not only at the centre itself, but of course working with the Isle of Wight Council as a sports development officer, instigating park run, for instance, the Island Games, and coaching several young people even up to Commonwealth Games standards. So really is a person that deserves this mention going forward. Just wanted to say, oh, sorry, are you okay? So it's basically, I'm looking for option 2, but I just wanted to pick up on what happened at scrutiny on Tuesday, where there was an error discovered. Thank you for Councillor Paul Brading, who is the chair of Lake Parish Council. The border between Lake and Sandown is actually right alongside the athletics track. And so though this is a request from the athletics club itself, the Isle of Wight Council took upon itself to do some consultation. Unfortunately, we talked to Sandown rather than Lake, so that has been rectified. Now we have spoken to Lake, and the offer was made to delay this paper, but the chair was very enthusiastic about the name change. Did consult with his fellow councillors in Lake, and they're very happy to support this name change. So that's pretty straightforward, hopefully, and a really nice paper to present. And I'm looking for.
Can I just come in and say, you know, can I have a seconder? Thank you.
So we're looking at option 2, so that's on page 27. Very simple: to agree to the request from the Isle of Wight Athletics Club to change the name to the Ray Scoville Athletics Centre 2022. Sorry, yes, just so sorry. Repeat that again. It's to change it this year. Yes. Sorry.
Thank you. And I've got a seconder for that, Councillor Fuller again. Councillor Andre.
Thank you, Chair. Just to say that maybe I should declare an interest here, as Ray did actually teach my youngest. He was an incredible personality. Both him and his wife, they selflessly contributed so much. And yeah, I'm very much in support of this. He was very much a big name in Sandown, and he did so much for athletics, not only in the town, but across the whole island. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comment? Move to the vote then on the item A, which was item 1, according to yourself, from the name change of Fairway's athletics track. Option 2. Right, so all in favour? Okay, that's unanimous. Newport Harbour.
Thank you, Chair. So this is under both our names. Would you like to lead, or do you want me to go kick off and then I think if you start. Yeah. So
you'll be proposing, and Councillor Fuller will be seconding. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I'll just do a brief introduction, and then I'll get Councillor Fuller can come in. So if we turn to the next page, 29, and I said the last item was concise. This one is anything but there's some really good stuff in there, and it's really about moving to the next stage for the harbour and its regeneration. It becoming a planning document is really important in stating to potential investors that the council's behind this project. And as you can see from this paper, it's a vast project really, and will span many years of actually bringing it through to reality. So what we're doing with this paper, actually, it's going to consultation. So we're asking the public what they think about the documents, about the plan itself, which has already been through Cabinet. That was October 2020. I think that's when it went. So just read the next stage of it. It helps de-risk the whole development as well. It gives investors surety that the council's behind it and the public are behind it, and then we can then start to bring forward different bits in there. We've also got the flood risk assessment work that was very important as well, and another important milestone in this whole story of the redevelopment of the Harbour is having the Harbour revision order, which has taken many years and has been painful at times, but we have got there. I suppose I must point out there is a new change to the what's proposed as what went to cabinet back in 2020 is the fact that we're asking the public to give their thoughts on any possibility of, or potential rather, of any housing on the front edge of Sea Close Park, which is on Fairley Road. So there's different options in there. Obviously, one option is to do nothing at all, but it's all there. I think it's on page 38 of the actual document, the master plan document. So this is it's just going out to consultation. We're not making a decision here tonight, apart from to go out and ask the public their thoughts. So I'll hand over to Councillor Paul Fuller now, who's got responsibility for planning.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I think when the last consultation took place back in 2017, I think one of the areas that did cause some concern was the housing element of that consultation. And I think what we need to do is we need to get that right. We need to go out, we need to be open, we need to be transparent, and we need to talk to the community that are affected. This is going to be for homes, and we want to make sure that we get that right. For that reason, it's important that we go out to consultation, and let's make sure this consultation, and I know Councillor Brodie's looking at me, but let's make sure that this consultation is meaningful, and let's make sure we listen to what the residents of Newport tell us within that consultation. So I'm very happy to second that proposal, and await any questions that come from it.
I think it's just one thing that I forgot to say. One of the main reasons we're looking at this with fresh eyes is because of the housing crisis we find ourselves in, and things have changed dramatically in the last 2 years. So I think it's only right and proper that we look at all our land holdings and see what can be done to provide much needed homes for islanders. Thank you.
I note that Councillors Oliver and Councillor Price made comment and put forward written concerns, and I take it from your response that you've addressed those and spoken with or passed on the information to them with the written response.
Yes, Chair, I believe we'll be having those questions. Yeah. With those questions about the members' question time at the end of this meeting, we'll have the written responses already.
Thank you. I just didn't want to overlook the two councillors that wanted to put their questions in writing. Councillor Brodie.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think it's unfortunate that you aren't able to bring in Councillor Price at this moment in time, given he's the local member. He's also my councillor, and well, I have no pecuniary interest, but I do live very close to what is laughably called Sea Close Gate. I'm also the chair of Newport and Carisbrooke Community Council, who discussed this with the Director of Regeneration at their meeting on Monday evening. And I have to say that perhaps apart from the Cabinet Member for Regeneration, I would suspect that there would be almost unanimous, except that one person, opposition to the proposal to have affordable homes built at Sea Close Gate. Councillor Price conducted extensive consultation regarding this the best part of 18 months, 2 years ago, where there was overwhelming opposition to building on the one recreation ground in Newport that the County Council, the Isle of Wight Council, still manages. All the others have been passed to the Community Council. I can assure you we won't be allowing any building on them. The fact of the matter is this is an urban area with a limited number of recreation grounds, and Sea Close is important to that. It's important to the residents of Fairley Ward. It's also important to the residents of Pan and Barton, who, although they have downside recreation ground, it isn't as well facilitated as Sea Close is in terms of children's play equipment, etc. And it is, quite frankly, an absolute disgrace that this is coming back out for consultation. Under the previous administration, they also put out this consultation, but they decided, in the light of Councillor Price's laudable activity, that they would not build on the front of Sea Close. I think the suggestion that affordable housing should be built on recreation grounds. This is not greenfield. This is a recreation ground within a town. The suggestion that to happen is an insult to the people of Newport, in particular that part of Newport. There are plenty of other brownfield sites around, and including ones that you seem as an administration to wish to ignore, such as the Camp Hill possibility. And frankly, I hope you will reject this paper. Newport councillors, I have absolutely no doubt, will oppose this, and I hope that you don't even make us have to go down that road. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Brodie. I can assure you that Sea Close is an Isle of Wight Council asset and land, and the Camp Hill situation is Ministry of Justice. So, you know, there's two items there, and I've already stated that at this moment in time, the Alliance administration will be concentrating on Isle of Wight Council assets with that focus. This is going out to consultation. It's about consultation, and it's not a foregone conclusion by any stretch of the imagination. And it does, and the usage of Sea Close Park is not just one that Newport residents use. It's also one that residents from Ryde use, because I used to play for Parkhurst on the very ground at Sea Close. So, and I played tennis on the tennis courts. But I must say that, you know, it's quite universal to the Isle of Wight that we continue to respect and utilise that open space for sport and pastimes. Councillor Julie Jones-Evans, you want to come back?
Thank you, Chair. If I could just address a couple of points there, which Councillor Brodie made very well. Firstly, you know, it's not about what I think. So Councillor Brodie thinks that I'm, you know, supportive of housing here. It's not about that. It's just about what the public think. And going back to those original Isle of Wight Council consultations, one lot of housing was completely rejected during that public consultation, and that was the terrace of housing facing the cemetery alongside the park there. However, this option, well, actually not this option, because this option has been pulled back quite dramatically. The option for having housing on Sea Close Gates, we're calling it, was not rejected by the public at that time. It was following on from Councillor Price's very extensive and passionate, and you know, I did support that at the time. Public petition he got up, and it was very well supported. So I think just worthwhile. That's why we're going out to the public again in a different format rather than it being an individual person's petition. I think that's really, really important that we look at that. And there are other. I think what I'd really like to do is people to look at the whole proposal here rather than focusing on one tiny corner. And it's not even on the recreational area that we're looking at either. It's just on the entrance. So there are options, obviously, as I said earlier, about leaving it as it is, or having a very small area or having a larger area. So we need to hear from the public here. There are other areas where we're looking also at housing on other areas of the park, you know, where we've got the planning office in that area, looking at a possible education facility there, looking at a potential multi-storey car park there. So there's other things that will be going on some area of the park, but the park, it's part of this document. That's why I would really like people to look at it in the whole, in the round, rather than focusing on this tiny part of it. It will be improving the offer of the park, and it's an amazing asset to the whole of the island as well as residents of Newport. So I really would like us to maybe not focus on this very small area, but look at the whole thing, and because it is a very, very important document, and it's absolutely critical that we move forward on the regeneration of Newport Harbour, because it's been crying out for it for many decades, and it's a great brownfield opportunity for the Isle of Wight Council.
Councillor Fuller.
Chairman, it's worth remembering this is a really important asset not only for the people of Newport, but for the people of the island. Let's make sure we get this right, and let's make sure that this consultation, as I keep saying, is meaningful. We listen to what local residents say. That is what this administration is about, listening and acting on what we are being advised by our local community. If they have doubts, if they have concerns, they need to be addressed, and that will enable this administration to take the lead in doing exactly what Councillor Brodie wants us to do. It's about talking, listening, and finding out what people want and acting on that feedback. And that is so important for me and for colleagues. Thank you. And thank you for your question, Councillor Brodie. It is appreciated.
Thank you, Councillor Fuller. Councillor Love, you want to come in?
Yes, thank you. Taking all of this together, from my perspective, I would much rather see that the consultation goes ahead now with all of the elements contained within it, so that this matter can be put to bed rather than it coming back at a later stage with an addition, so that we have to go through the whole process again about that area, because some of that area is not necessarily, particularly the garage, which belongs to Isle of Wight Council. It doesn't belong to Isle of Wight Council, sorry. So therefore, from my perspective, we could take it out of the consultation, and but then at some stage in the later, it will probably come back depending on what the owner of that garage wants to do. And therefore, it makes sense to do that consultation now, which may save a lot of stress and energy further down the line. So that would be my opinion about it. And I am, and always have been, because I've got significant areas in my own ward where people want to build, going to listen to what the people are saying in response to that.
Thank you, Councillor Love. Just looking, sorry, Councillor Jarman.
Right. I think the essence of public consultations is what we're all about. This is about listening. This is where we're coming from. And I don't think any of us would want to disenfranchise the public from expressing their opinion. And so I will be supporting it.
Thank you, Councillor Jarman. I would like to say that scrutiny offered no comment, other than they recognised that it was going to a full consultation. So thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Councillor Jones-Evans.
May I read out the option? Is that okay?
Absolutely, and then we'll go to the vote.
And as you quite rightly said, we did discuss it with scrutiny, and I answered Councillor Quirk's questions that he put to me, but I think there were support of it going out to consultation. So we're looking at option A. This is what I'm proposing, to publish the draft Newport Harbour Master Plan supplementary planning document for public consultation. Nice and simple.
Go to the votes. All in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Moving on down the agenda then, we move to item 6, which is a report from the Cabinet Member for Children's Services, Education and Lifelong Skills. It's the school funding formula and budget setting for 2022 to 23. And it's Debbie Andre, Councillor, to lead on that. Debbie.
Thank you, Chair. As I'm sure members have seen, the timelines on this are very tight. One of the first things I'd like to say is a big thank you to the team who actually worked tirelessly on this throughout the Christmas break to actually finalise this paper for you tonight. As you will also see, the Department for Education publishes annual changes to school funding arrangements. The national funding formula allocates funding to the local authority, which then uses a local formula to allocate funding to individual schools. I'd like to draw your attention to paragraph 23 on page 152. And I'm sure you will have noted from the figures, despite the increased funding and a rolling review of the 3-year forecast position, a significant gap remains for 22-23, with an underlying budget shortfall in the region of 1.33 million, as the funding formula does not fully account for the Isle of Wight's higher demand and incidence of special educational needs. In addition to this, paragraph 25 says that crucial to this managing down of the funding shortfall in the longer term is the upcoming government SEND review publication, which is expected during spring 2022, which is anticipated to have a far-reaching impact on funding methodologies. We have balanced the budget for this year. I will be looking together with my team very closely when that review is published. We are not alone as a local authority in having that shortfall, and I look forward to receiving that review. So the report must be notified, the DFE must be notified of the proposed formula by the 21st of January 2022, and subsequent school budget allocations must be confirmed to individual schools by the 28th of February of this year, applicable from the 1st of April. In terms of consultation, the school funding formula is set following significant consultation with the Isle of Wight Schools community directly and through its consultative statutory group, the Schools Forum, over a period of months. And I can confirm that the recommended option, option 1, is in line with the views of those groups, with government intentions for a clear, transparent, affordable school funding formula and robustly evidenced DSG budget for 22-23. Chair, would you like me to give the comments of the corporate scrutiny?
I was about to do so, but you're more than welcome to take that on.
The corporate scrutiny had no formal comment to make, as this item had been the subject of a consultation exercise, and they noted that it had the agreement of the Schools Forum chair. I look for a seconder.
Councillor Bacon, thank you. Do you wish to speak, Councillor Bacon? Or?
No, I think it's all been said. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone wish to pass comment, make questions, concerns? No, then we'll move to the vote. And the vote is as has already been stated by...
Shall I move to the recommendation, Chair?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Chair. The recommendation is that Cabinet approves the 2022-23 school funding formula and wider dedicated schools grant budget allocations detailed in Appendix 1 and 2 of this report.
All in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Moving along to the next item, which is the report from the Cabinet Member for Environment and Heritage and Waste Management, Councillor Bacon, and it's supporting the UNESCO Biosphere.
Thank you, Chair. As I did on Tuesday at scrutiny, I would direct people who are seeking to follow the detail of this to perhaps look more at the annex to the Cabinet paper that's supporting the Biosphere document, which appears at pages 175 to 189 of the bundle. And I'll probably, most of my comments will draw more on that, I think. The aim, what we're seeking to do here with this paper, is to take forward and develop the status of the island UNESCO Biosphere following the award of that status to the island in 2019. As to what a biosphere is, it's a question that's still asked, and I'll comment on that a little more later, and that's an understandable question. as was said on Tuesday, it is far wider than just something that is environmental, far wider than just being about environmental outcomes. Biospheres, the international network of biospheres, are areas that share three features: high levels of biological diversity, high levels of cultural diversity, and each has an institutional, regulatory and political framework that properly recognises those. And the areas that biospheres seek to support are those 17 areas that appear in the UNESCO Sustainable Goals. We've got those set out on page 172 in the main cabinet paper, but for people who like a picture, they're also in the document I referred to on page 177, and they make it very clear that that's not just about the environment. That's important, but it also includes, for example, number one, no poverty. So what we're doing here, and this is akin to and aligned with the climate change strategy, which obviously was considered late last year, is to integrate the pursuit of these goals, these 17 goals, and the maintenance of biosphere status to do that, so as we can create a sustainable future for the island and ordinary people on the island, for its residents. We got biosphere status after a lot of work because we have the basic framework and basic machinery on the island that can do that. But what we need to do is actually take forward what we have, develop it, and realise the potential and opportunities that are there. The opportunities are set out, page 179, I'd refer to, and again, it makes it quite clear this is not just about our environmental capital. I'm not going to read the whole list because they're lengthy, because we do have a lot to grow on. But in addition to that environmental capital, it's our cultural capital and our social capital. As I said a little earlier, I do appreciate that some people say they don't understand what this is all about. But that is understandable because since 2019, when the status was awarded, it's fair to say progress has been a little slow, but that is understandable. We've had a planet-changing situation to deal with. And perhaps it would be the case anyway, but particularly recognising that part of what we want to put in place is education and information, so people can see this as the opportunity I believe it is. I would suggest that people don't just ask, what is it? Refer to a biosphere, what is it? But what could it be? What could it do for us? What could it do for ordinary people? So to aim to unlock the potential I think this gives us, what we're going to do is integrate the thinking, those goals, into council policy and planning. That's really what we're aiming to do here. But that's just part of it, because this is wider than the council. This is not just a council thing. I would, as I did on Tuesday evening, guide people to the diagram on page 184. It's quite a simple little diagram, but what it seeks to show is the creation of a biosphere steering committee, as I said, aligned because it's equally important with the Mission Zero Hub, the climate change strategy. And that will be an independently chaired body, and the membership, as described a little earlier in the paper, will be made up of those representatives of those sectors of the island who support and develop the sustainability goals. 3 random examples, that will be things like coastline management, well-being, transport. It really is across the board. And that committee, as I say, independently chaired, will guide and develop the aims of the biosphere. And I hope to significant effect for all of us. I think I shall just move, actually, Chairman, there may be some questions, to the option that is before us. That is option 2, which appears on page 173. If it's okay with you, I'll read that out now. And the option asks us to agree the templates for decisions to full council to provide sufficient regard for the biosphere within the development of policies, strategies and decisions taken by the council. So everything we do is biosphere. Agree to adopt and build the document supporting the Isle of Wight UNESCO Biosphere into the workstream planning of the council, of the work of the council. And I should have actually referred to obviously the end of the supporting document. There is an action plan there to achieve that embedding process, and it will be ingrained in how all council directorates operate. And thirdly, under the option to create and support a biosphere steering committee in accordance with the paper just referred to, the committee is to be administratively supported by the council and to work alongside the Mission Zero Hub currently under development. Subject to questions, of course, I look for a seconder.
Councillor Jones-Evans, second.
I'd be delighted to second that, if that's okay with Councillor Bacon. And so I'll just say a couple of words, if you don't mind, Chair. Just want to say congratulate Councillor Bacon and the team who've worked very hard on this the last couple of months. I know, again, as Councillor Andre's team as well, worked over Christmas as well to make sure this paper was ready for us to look at. And you know, we could literally spend all evening discussing this because it's not only so important to the island, it's important to this council, but it just permeates every part of island life, really. And from my perspective, in my role as cabinet member for Regen and Business Development and Tourism, you know, I'm particularly looking forward to continuing to work on the social capital, the cultural capital, and the environmental capital elements of this. As you can see on the social capital, we talk about the Green Impact programme coming back again, which is something that I brought to the island 2018, and we're really delighted that we found the funding to be able to bring this out. That was a really good project that was free for all businesses across the Isle of Wight to improve their environmental actions, really, and save on carbon. Very quite simple, but can go from simple things of changing your light bulbs to doing more, you know, creating gardens. But there's a toolkit there. It's free to use, and it's very, very simple and easy to access for the one-man band up to the big companies like Vicoma, who got a gold award on this when we first did it. So really pleased that that's going to be embedded in that, because by everyone taking their action, taking responsibility, this is how we're going to be delivering all these benefits. And the cultural capital, again, you can see, talk about the heritage action zones, the music and culture, the arts. We're already working on this. This paper will just help embed that further into our organisation and across the island. You know, having the Let's Create a programme from Arts Council and having been a priority place the next 3 years is really, really important. And having Historic England, of course, looking at us too. And the tourism, this can only be a tool to benefit bringing people to our beautiful island, and they perhaps can understand, because we now, all of us can articulate what the biosphere means or how we're utilising it and how it's being embedded, then we can all be ambassadors, each one of us, to our visitors. And just to finish off that, we've already started work on the carbon credit scheme, which is a very, very interesting way that we can actually use our wonderful environment to our financial benefit. So I'm not going to say any more. Absolutely delighted. Well done. And wholeheartedly put my hand up to support this.
Thank you very much, Councillor Jones-Evans. I would like to say at this stage, as you just seconded, the scrutiny committee, the corporate scrutiny committee, is fully or formally supported the recommendations and would monitor the delivery of actions therein. So I think that says that you know, the corporate scrutiny looked at the paper, took things into consideration, and are supportive, and are obviously going to monitor and probably bring some various elements back through corporate scrutiny, which is great. Councillor Fuller.
Thank you. I remember a time when I was on this council 25 years ago, and there was a couple of people that invited me to this meeting because they thought it was important that somebody from the one of the chairs of one of the council at the time, we used to have this old-fashioned thing there called committee chairman and things, which is something I'd love to revert back to. But a few years ago, I met with these two people. One was Carol Flux. The other chap was a guy called Ray Harrington Bell. And he said, said to me, Carol and I are looking at setting up this organisation called the Footprint Trust. And we're an environmental organisation, and we're going to want to change the lives of people on the island. 25 years on, the Footprint Trust is still going strong. And one of their unique selling points is they try their very best to lift people out of poverty. And again, the biodiversity, the biosphere is something that we can use to support those people that are impoverished on the island. What we're going to see in the next couple of months is people that are in poverty on the island, people on low incomes, they are really going to get screwed by the energy cap. We are going to see people struggling, making that decision whether they should heat their house or eat. That is so important for us. A lot of people seem to think that the environment is something for sort of like Guardian readers and people like that. Not the case at all. We have a lot of people that will benefit from the biosphere and the actions that we can put in to support that role. I am totally behind this. I know what some councillors are probably thinking about this paper. They probably think, well, there are higher priorities we should look into. But I think when you dig into this and you probe and you find out what's actually going on the island and how we can use the biosphere to our advantage and to our community's advantage, that can only be a good thing, can't it? And I think we should all get behind this paper, and I would applaud Jonathan for bringing this forward. And thank you for the work that you're undertaking, Councillor Bacon. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fuller. Councillor Jarman.
I should probably start off by stating that I'm not a Grawny-ad reader. I think I've spent a lot of time trying to understand what biosphere really represents. And with this paper, I finally get it. So that, in a message, should be it. And I think we'll look back on this as an important cornerstone for the future of the island. This will embed itself in everything that we do. And I think it reflects enormously well on the island. Ultimately, here we are recognizing, securing, and enhancing our island environment and everything that goes with it. And what could be a more worthy undertaking? So congratulations, Councillor Bacon.
Thank you, Councillor Jarman. Councillor Debbie Andre.
I'd just like to add to what colleagues have said, that I think this paper and Councillor Bacon and his team, they really have set out the fantastic potential and the work that's already been done. That the biosphere, as Councillor Jones-Evans said, it's embedded across so many areas in which we work and our portfolios, and I'm delighted to see in there the education elements of that. And I've already started working with the team because it's absolutely vital that we get our young people and our schools involved in this, because it is such a fundamental element of who we are as an island now and the potential of this. I am really excited about this. So thank you to the team, and I look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Councillor Andre. Councillor Jordan.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Jarman said what I was going to say, so I was absolutely the same. I had a bit of a smile every time I bumped into Councillor Bacon. So what's the biosphere then, Jonathan? Like Councillor John, struggled to understand really what it was. But look, suddenly this paper comes along and it starts to open up in the real world that we live in. High expectations, the UNESCO Biosphere designation, but on page 172, there's 17 goals, and we're kind of committing to those goals in a sense. Going to be difficult for sure. But look, you know, goal number one, end poverty in all its forms everywhere. I mean, these are high aspirations for us to bear into our decision making. You know, goal two, end hunger, achieve food security. You know, this is the average ordinary person in the street that we're aimed at. Ensure healthy lives. I know they're high aspirations, but I'm very happy to support this. And I think, as Councillor Jarman says, people that come behind us in years to come will be very thankful that we had the foresight to think about these important issues and bring them into the considerations of council decision making. So I'm very supportive of this. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Jordan. I'll come back in a moment with my comment, but I'm going to bring in Councillor Brodie straight away and hear a comment and probably a question.
Yeah, well, obviously, I have the right in the Constitution to comment on any item on the agenda, and I intend to comment on this because I think somebody needs to be a naysayer to this nonsense. I'm not a climate change denier or anything like that, and I've been puzzling about the biosphere ever since Councillor Jones-Evans put something in our community council's budget a year ago about community engagement. And that budget's been spent, and I'll refer to the outcomes of that shortly. And I've been puzzling for a while, and Councillor Bacon's had a succession of emails from me over a period of time, particularly in recent days, so that I can actually understand what a biosphere is. And clearly I'm not as intelligent as the eminent intellects around this table who all seem to understand every word, because some of the phrases in there I can't believe anybody, you know, can understand them, and I don't believe you actually read them if you say you understand every word in this. The biosphere is obviously a worthy project. It's another worthy aspiration by this administration. Goes along with the dark skies one that I mocked from the sidelines at your last cabinet. You know, something entirely irrelevant to people in my ward or in most urban areas. I'm trying to get extra street lights, not have dark skies, but this administration is committed to a dark skies project, you know, and now you're committing to the biosphere. The language in, I mean, Councillor Bacon has directed us to certain pages, the framework, I think it's called, and I have read this report, particularly the framework, about 6 times now, and I'm still not really convinced by anything within it, to be frank. Some of the language is gobbledygook, to be frank. I mean, you know, notwithstanding synergies in conceptualization, the best phrase, and I'm sure you all noticed it, it's a classic of all time, in all my years in public service, fossiliferous exposed Cretaceous costliness. Now tell me, can any of you around there tell me what that means? And you put this in a public document. It's a joke. It really is. Fossiliferous, I can't even say it, exposed Cretaceous costliness. Now, after corporate scrutiny, which I watched on Tuesday night, and I don't think most of them understood what this was about, to be frank. They think, most people just think it's about climate change, and clearly there's a report of full council next Wednesday where it says the biosphere has been considered, but nothing, it doesn't have any effect on climate change. So clearly that obviously didn't understand the biosphere either. After corporate scrutiny, I undertook a quick survey on the social media within my ward, which is quite extensive. That would have gone out to 1,500 households. Obviously, not only a small percentage have responded, but barely 10% had even heard that we had biosphere status. And this is nearly 3 years later. Now, what have these people been doing before they were writing this unintelligible report? And these people who got this status, why have they not communicated this to ordinary islanders who have got bigger concerns than long words in some academic type report? Within the status, there are 17 UNESCO goals, of which, you know, they're very relevant to my ward, to other deprived parts of the island, whether in Ryde, Ventnor, the Bay Area or whatever, you know, the whole issue of addressing no poverty, good health and well-being, affordable energy, decent work, reduced inequalities, all very fantastic. But, you know, frankly, given your track record with my ward, as I alluded to earlier on, I'm an immense sceptic that you were capable of delivering any of this. And in terms of the no poverty target, have you actually read what they define as poverty? People living on less than $1.25 per day. Now, have you translated that into UK poverty? $1.20. Go on, convert it, Ian. Convert it into a weekly. That's far less than even our miserable benefit system in this country. And Jonathan Bacon has been trying to persuade me this is going to address poverty on the Isle of Wight. Poverty is relative. Poverty in the subcontinent of this world, India, Pakistan, etc., is very different to what it is in the UK or Germany or France or the USA. It doesn't mean anything to the United Kingdom. It doesn't mean anything to poor people on the Isle of Wight. It doesn't mean anything to people in my ward. In conclusion, I just want to ask you to stop messing around with what I see as vanity projects, to be honest, and start to prioritise real measures to address the poverty. Real measures. And I know you've got something later, which I applaud, but it's only a step regarding affordable housing, about delivering employment and decent jobs on the island, about doing everything we can to make energy affordable. And the final word I would say is if you are really going to go along with this, rip this framework up, rewrite it in plain English. Paul Fuller talked about the Footprint Trust, an organisation that knows how to communicate with ordinary people. Ray comes up to Downside Community Centre or one of his colleagues regularly to talk about heating issues and stuff like that. People like Ray, they understand what he's talking about. If I left a copy of this in that community centre or any other community centre in the country, they'd think we were mad, really mad. It needs a complete rewrite. Fair enough, go down this route, but you need to start getting real as an administration. Let's have some real policies like the development of relocatable homes. Thank you, Chair.
Well, I'm pleased you mentioned the paper that I'm going to bring forward in a moment. Give me a little bit of confidence in sitting here and listening to your points on the biosphere. What I would say is going back in time, and you may well remember, Jim, or not, it might be before your time as well, Councillor Brodie, was Dick Sedgley. Dick Sedgley was a council officer, and a council officer that actually taught me about green initiatives. This was when the Green Party was a blink in the eye of a German electorate. So all I'm saying is that going back from those days when Dick, who sadly passed away some years ago, and suddenly, and unfortunately, we got things on the move in the Isle of Wight Council. We were moving in the right direction. All I'll say is that the last, as you remember, Councillor Brodie, because you once again took my cabinet member with regard to sustainability to task on a few occasions in the chamber, but she proved her worth. She proved where she was coming from, and she gave you answers that you could understand and realise. So I think that, you know, as we progress with the biosphere, we're not going to get everything right first time, and some of the wording might be a little bit long-winded or not, but that depends on whoever and whatever. But the main thing is, if you stuck out the goals in the background with a picture paints 1,000 words. Number 1, no poverty. Number 2, zero hunger. I'll tell you, that's the message that's going out under the biosphere. I understand the narrative, or a lot of the narrative. I take on board what you're saying in actual fact when I start to realise some of the narrative, but but you cannot find an issue with the 17 Sustainable Development Goals that are within this document. It's part and parcel of how we've got to move forward. And everything's interlinked, everything's interwoven, as is our cabinet positions. You know, we don't work in silos, and everyday life on the island is not a silo and working or living in silos. So I'll take that on board. But those diagrams with the pictures on there, with a brief note at the top of what it refers to, they're the things that resonate. They're the things that come forward with society, and people understand it. And people understand that this cabinet and the Alliance group are working towards those ends. And it's early days yet. And quite honestly, we're going to get there, and we're going to get there hopefully with your help and indeed the help of your community, so that we can actually not only do some good, but reference what we're doing as well. Because on that may well be a consideration for grant funding to come into PAN and other areas that are in need, to actually raise the game for those people and provide employment, provide education, provide welfare, food and support, and that's where we're going with this. I thought, you know, don't put yourself down about the paper, because, you know, I respect you, and I respect you, you know, what you come along for. And to be quite honest, Councillor Brodie, you've turned up this evening. I thank you for that, because whatever is said in your favour or not in your favour, I recognise your commitment, and I recognise your commitment to hold us to task, but also recognise some of the positive elements that are coming through from this Alliance administration. So I can criticise dark skies, because, to be quite candid, a lot of my people in Powell Lane and Grange Avenue, etc., say, can't you turn the damn lights off? And that's a mugger. They can sit in their conservatory and read their books. Mind you, that's another story with energy costs at the moment, isn't it? But to me, there's fors and against with everything. But I think that we're going on the right course with this. And I think I've said too much as a chairman, probably more so than when my leader gets back. But what I'm going to say is, I'm going to back this. It's a step in the right direction, a big step. Thank you, Councillor Bacon. Would you like to sum up? Thank you.
Well, I've got to follow that. Firstly, I must thank Jeff, because he's actually pointed out a typo in the paper. It's not costliness, it's coastline. So we're talking about fossiliferous exposed Cretaceous coastline. The fact you can find dinosaurs if you have a walk at Culver. That's all that's referring to. And Yaverland, and all over the place, because it's such an amazing place. That's what we're celebrating. And Jeff rightly says we must start to address the real measures. And what I would say back to that, supporting that comment, is that what this is about setting the mindset and the framework to allow us to do that. And it is all relative. Jeff gave some figures about poverty. Of course, UNESCO talks about absolutes. It's an international organisation. What we're doing through this work is to put that into the local context, to address those issues as they arise locally and as they need to be dealt with locally. And the paper that Councillor Stevens is going to be bringing forward shortly is perhaps an example of the sort of things that will come forward with this mindset, because it's the mindset we've got in this cabinet. Another example, I think, picking up slightly on something Councillor Fuller said, was you know, if we take this mindset, we look at affordable homes, which is something that people talk about a lot at the moment. What does affordable mean? If you start to think of it in a biosphere way, if you like, it's not just buying the house, it means affordable to live in. so it's sustainable going forward. It looks at things like energy prices, insulation, and so on. So it's that sort of mindset and getting that thinking and translating that into and adapting concepts such as affordability in a positive, sustainable way. And so, as Councillor Jordan said, this is about committing to those goals, those 17 goals for the island, to make the island work better. Councillor Stevens has mentioned scrutiny support for this, which I'm very grateful for. Councillor Jones-Evans did mention the tourism aspect. Some people might not see direct benefits to them in tourism, but in the biosphere, but if it brings valuable tourism to us, and a lot of people work in that industry, it perhaps has a benefit there. Perhaps other people can feel it in that way. And I know that Visit Isle of Wight have just been champing at the bit to be able to start talking about the island biosphere as a destination in itself, and as something of value to them and that industry. Something I did mean to say in my initial outline was, this is about education, and we mustn't forget members in the chamber in that. There are training sessions shortly to be announced for members once this paper is in place, so we can set out how things are going forward and draw people in and generate and hopefully receive ideas as to how we can put things into effect to as Jeff says, address the real things that are needed for the island. And there will also, as I think I did say, be much public dissemination of the ideas. And it'll be a two-way process, most definitely. It's not just telling people, it's about encouraging people to think about what this could be for the island, how this could help the island, how this could help the island's problems. And that will be led by the committee if we vote in favour of this in a moment. So I think I'll sum up there. I'm never one chairman to treat these things as awards ceremonies and give long lists of names in thanks. An awful lot of people have contributed to this. This has been years in development. I'm going to mention two names though, because this was initially led by the AONB unit, Area of Outstanding Natural Beauty unit on the island. And I do want to have a record of thanks to Richard Grogan and particularly Joel Bateman, who put so much into this, and I hope they're pleased with where we've got to, and they will be pleased in a few minutes when we go to the vote. Thank you. I have set out the option, the recommendation. I'm not going to read it again. I'll leave it to you, Chairman, to take it forward.
The option's been read out. I'm not going to read it again either. I think we can take that as read. Unless anyone objects and wants us to repeat it, we'll move straight forward to the vote. All in favour of the option as said, thank you. Unanimous. Moving down the agenda, we have next the item 8, which is the report of the Cabinet Member for Highways, PFI, Transport and Infrastructure. Two items under agenda item 8. Councillor Jordan, deployment of electrical vehicle charge points.
Thank you, Chair. As you can see, colleagues, this is a report to us suggesting and explaining how and why we should deploy electric vehicle charging points in our car parks around the island. The report you've read, I'm sure, it identifies ways of approaching this. Essentially, there are identified as 4 separate ways of doing this. We are suggesting one of those 4, which is a lease arrangement. The reason for that is it's the least cost and financial exposure to the council. It's the least return, but it's a return for no investment, which is why it's being recommended. The system that's being recommended comes under a wider Hampshire tendering process that was carried out through the OJEU and had a single successful tender that is delivering this across Hampshire, and we have decided that we avail ourselves of that procurement process on a lease arrangement and install the car chargers as listed in the various car parks. So point out, this is in addition to a previous grant-funded on-road vehicle chargers of 10 charging points. A charging point has 2 charging facilities around the island in towns and parishes. And this comes behind that as a second phase into the car parks. But reminding you all that it's phase 1, perhaps, of installation in car parks. And as and when the demand grows, we can increase those points into other car parks and more chargers in the same car parks. So essentially that's it. We're on catch up with the mainland on electric charging points, but we are on catch up and we're on our way. This is a phase of doing it. We need to do this. The end of the carbon vehicle is in sight. Government have given us a pretty clear steer on when that will be. And we know that already the sale of electric vehicles is increasing considerably. We know that visitors are coming here and expecting to be able to charge their vehicles. So it's part of a change in the infrastructure of provision of energy for vehicles. So I commend this report to you. There's a recommendation. I'll read it, Chair. I've just a slight amendment to that recommendation, if I may. I'll give you the amendment where in our recommendation, then I'll read the recommendation, where it says after the colon and semicolon, and give the Director of Regeneration / Director of Neighbourhoods, I would like to insert in agreement with portfolio holder to expand network as demand grows. So it's just a slight amendment so that we have some elected member oversight. So the recommendation would read, Cabinet to approve the installation of electric vehicle charge points in council car parks under the Central Southern Region framework. Approve the first 9 locations for charge point installations under a lease arrangement and give the Director of Regeneration / Director of Neighbourhoods, in agreement with portfolio holder, authority to expand the network as demand grows. Chair, we may have to do the amendment, we have to have a seconder for that and vote on that. I'm not sure, or whether we can accept that as, yeah.
Councillor Bacon.
I'm happy to both second the paper and the amendment, Chair.
Thank you.
That case, Chair, I'm happy just to move to the vote unless there are any questions or comments.
Scrutiny, corporate scrutiny has supported the recommendation and indeed the paper. Councillor Andre.
Thank you, Chair, for indulging me. Just one quick comment. I was delighted to see that if the proposal is approved, that town and parish councils will be consulted to prior installation, because I think that is a key element of this, because obviously it's town, parish and community councils that know their local areas and know where the charge points will be best placed. So I was delighted to see that inclusion. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't think anyone else wishes to comment. Oh, Councillor Bacon.
Sorry, Chair, just very briefly, in seconding the paper, I'd like to highlight essentially it's set out in paragraph 22 that, of course, this move supports the Council's climate and environment change strategy. We're aiming to be net zero by 2040, and this will be a key part of that. Electric vehicles will reduce carbon emissions in the transport sector. And of course, what we're doing here will encourage the early adoption of electric vehicles, the greater adoption of electric vehicles. I'm also pleased to note, as the paragraph says, that these points are going to be supplied with green energy. So it's good all round from that aspect. And that highlights the reason I wish to second this.
Thank you. Councillor Jordan.
No, Jonathan, part of the Biosphere already. The very next item, we're supporting the Biosphere with our electric chargers. And the other point I'll make, Chair, thank you for your indulgence, is as an administration, we've agreed to work closely as we can with town and parish councils. That's why that's in there, Councillor Andrew.
Right, thank you. No one else wishes to make comments, ask questions. We'll move to the vote. And the vote is as per the recommendation quoted by Councillor Jordan earlier, with the amendment in there, in agreement with the portfolio holder. All in favour, please. Unanimous. Moving swiftly on to another paper which is being brought before Cabinet. Floating Bridge 6, outcomes from Gateway 5 review. And that's Councillor Jordan again, please.
Thank you, Chair. Long awaited report by many. The recommendations are extensive and I'll come on to them. I probably won't read them, Chair, unless you absolutely insist on it. They're quite extensive, but maybe the key points. Just to say, this is great news, this report. We've managed, since we took over the administration last May, to get this independent report, as requested by the SLEP, into existence and finalised and brought forward and published. Seems to have taken a long while because it was requested about 15 months ago by the SLEP, but nonetheless we've done that. And the second piece of good news recently is that we have finally agreed a date for mediation on the 2nd of March. Another issue that has been we've struggled to finalise, not entirely from our side, but from the other side, but also due to more recent costs to the floating bridge that had to be taken into account whilst our claim against the other side was compiled. The recommendations, Chair, I'll give you the three. It's to note the Gateway 5 review report and approve the implementation of the respective recommendations subject to resources, to continue with the mediation process, and alongside this to provide where resources are at, and then it's a list, financial analysis of the cost with a forecast, before any assessment whether floating bridge can sustainably continue to operate. We need to assess that. An economic impact assessment of the floating bridge. That's to take account of the economic impact of it not crossing that river on both communities. We need to look at that and consider that in the overall terms of, is it sustainable? And a clear set of performance requirements. These were picked up in the independent review, and to ensure that the service is financially viable and delivers the outcomes of the SLEP. So the SLEP grant funding, which Councillor Stevens will well remember because he was a member of the SLEP at the time when the Gateway project, which didn't actually go ahead, was around, and managed to secure the funding for this council under that Gateway thing, and managed to, I think our officers did this, move it out of the Gateway so that it was safe when the Gateway project didn't go ahead. So there's good work that went on all those years ago to provide the money for this vessel. And then to provide a further report to Cabinet after those, after completion of those processes. And just to note, in addition to make recommendations for further considerations and actions, in terms of the existing floating bridge, when considered against the viability of alternatives, such as a replacement floating bridge. So we're prepared to look at all eventualities, but the first step now, I suggest to you all, is to undertake mediation in March, hope that we can arrive at some kind of fair and agreeable settlement, and then move forward after that. For that reason, I prefer not to disclose too much information about claims and our position and our intentions. So there we are. Unless, Chair, you want me to read that whole recommendation out, that's the report. I welcome it very much. It's a long time coming. It is good news for this council. People seem to be looking in and thinking it's not good news. We are moving this in the right direction, finally, in terms of resolving the contractual issue and resolving the vessel itself, whether it be this one or another one. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I look for a seconder. Councillor Jones-Evans.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'd like to second this. I'm not going to add too much to what Councillor Jordan said. Just want to sort of thank him really and the whole team at Neighbourhoods for, you know, a bit like the push boat, I suppose, keeping this on course and getting to the other side, because this is a great step forward in not only securing the report, which is a fascinating read and essential to inform the LEP, and so it's 15 months since they asked for it, but to get to the mediation. You know, we've you know, speaking before I took up this job, you know, it was a source of extreme frustration, the lack of information, the lack of progress. It just seemed to be a bit like Bleak House with Jarndyce and Jarndyce going on and on and on and on. So I just want to really thank the team for we were really focusing, and it has been a focus of you. I know, Councillor Jordan, you know, you in this weekly updates and so there was, when the Alliance became the administration, this is one of the top topics that we wanted to get sorted. So wish you all the best of luck with the mediation. You've got all of the people in the Isle of Wight behind you. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to just draw members' attention to corporate scrutiny outcomes from the Gateway review. No formal comment was made on this item. So I'm going to move on now and seek anyone else that wish to make a comment. Councillor Bacon.
Well, I did indicate a second, but I'm very happy that Councillor Jones-Evans has. And I could talk about the Biosphere impact section in the paper, but I won't. But I'd just like to add to what Councillor Jones-Evans has said about the amazing work Councillor Jordan has done to advance this. We had a situation when coming in as an administration that it seemed a government review had been requested and just nothing done about it. Councillor Jordan's got that off the ground, got the review, taking things forward. We now have a mediation date. Something that's been talked about for ages. The action compared to the inaction in recent months is amazing. And as I say, I would have been very happy to second this paper just to record that credit I think Councillor Jordan deserves here.
Councillor Jordan.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Bacon. It was remiss of me to say that our staff have been remarkable in this. They've been pulled from pillar to post under enormous pressures during breakdowns, repairs, sourcing parts, trying to maintain the service, keeping the Jenny boat running. Without the thank you for saying I did this, but you know, actually at the very least it was a team, but in part without our staff and their dedication and sheer hard work and standing up to enormous pressures, we wouldn't have got it this far. It is a testament to all our team, from the director down to our right down to our staff who are running that vessel under difficult conditions as well. So thank you for allowing me to say that, Chair.
Thank you. I'm looking. Anyone else wish to comment or question on floating bridge 6? No. Right. I'm not going to wax lyrical on this, Phil. You know my thoughts. I've said them in private to you, and I think Councillor Bacon's adequately summed it up. So let's move to the vote. I'm not going to ask you to read half a page of A4 with the recommendations. Everyone's read it, understands it. Move to the vote. All in favour, please.
recommendation is it, although it's long, it's in plain English.
Well,
Is it ordinary
so we're moving. So we're moving in the right direction then, Councillor Jordan, that we're actually getting into plain English mode. Brilliant. I'm going to move to the vote. All in favour, please. Unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. Bear with me because the next items are mine, and item 9, Cabinet Member, this is in my Cabinet position, Cabinet Member for Community Protection, Digital Transformation, Housing Provision and Housing Needs. The 9A is the Hackney and Private Licensing Policy, and I've got it here, I have. This paper seeks to approve the revised Hackney carriage and private hire licensing policy following a trade and public consultation that went out for a month's consultation. We had a fairly good response, quite robust, and in actual fact, the team under Amanda Gregory, and I shouldn't mention names, but unfortunately I have, basically have done a good thing pulling this together, and this takes the place of the current policy, which was first brought into being relating to taxi and taxi hire and activities in 2016. So it's a few years coming, and what I'd like to say is it's about Hackney carriages and taxis, and it's the standards within the running of the service. What I would like to say that it also takes into health and well-being features, and if I'll draw members' attentions to paragraph 9. I think it is, which mentioned core values being community focused, wherever possible, putting the needs of residents first, working together and engaging with partners to make the most of integrated working, being effective and efficient, being the best we can in how we can organise and deliver our services, and being fair and transparent, making decisions based on data and evidence in an open and accountable way. As I said about the consultation, it started in November, the 10th of November, and finished on the 8th of December. And in addition, on the Monday, the 22nd of November, a briefing session was held with the licensing committee, where officers were presented with the revised policy, and obviously their views were taken on board as well. Touching on the biodiversity and biosphere, etc., I'll bring you to climate and environment and Unesco Biosphere impact, paragraph 18 and 19. Although the proposed policy does not make it a requirement for trade use to use green energy powered vehicles and equipment, it encourages them to consider the use of them when first applying for a license or when replacing vehicles. The rationale behind that is that due to the pandemic and other pressures, the Hackney carriage trade has hit a bit of an area where they haven't been as busy as they would be. Therefore, fares haven't been raised and income hasn't been generated as it has been in days, pre-pandemic. So we've got a long. So we have raised the situation with regard to efficiency and indeed the appearance of vehicles, etc. But what we would say is that that should be a long-term programme, understanding the conditions which Hackney carriage drivers are working under, and we're absolutely encouraging the trade to move forward on green energy vehicles as and when we can afford it and take it forward. In addition to the various requirements such as Crime and Disorder Act and making sure that people have clean records, etc., So, community safety is one of the high priorities, and in addition to all drivers undergoing those DBS checks, we ask that they undergo safeguard training. This training is developed locally and includes local issues. Policy sets out the Isle of Wight Council and how it will regulate taxi licensing, including application, determination, renewal, enforcement and appeals. It also offers guidance and information for both the applicant and decision makers, which is very important. If the policy is refused, the council will continue to operate on the old policy. Two main issues raised through the consultation. As I said, we did run that consultation, and as the Alliance Group does, when we take forward consultation, we look into the benefits and indeed the various elements that are brought forward by, in this case, Hackney carriage drivers and indeed users. But what we want to make sure is that we are a listening council as much as a doing council. Two main issues raised through the consultation. The first was the maximum age of vehicles on renewal, and the policy which stated that all vehicles had to be wheelchair accessible. We took this into consideration and took into account the Trade and the Licensing Committee and other local authorities. The policy has been amended to provide no age limit, but the vehicle to remain in good order, both mechanically and visually, to the discretion of the licensing authority. I'd like to just move now. I would look for a seconder. Can I have a seconder, please? Right, so I've got a seconder, and Councillor Andre, thank you. What I would say is that if there's anyone who wishes to speak, or we'll move straight forward to the vote on the recommendation, which is to approve and adopt the revised Hackney carriage and private hire licensing policy as attached. Councillor Andre.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd just like to add to that. You are quite right in saying that this was a policy that did need to be updated and reviewed. We do use taxis as an integral part of the school transport, and we need to be absolutely sure that we are providing a safe service. We also need to have the confidence of parents that that service is going to be safe for our island children. And the review of this policy does reassure me that we will have that confidence. So thank you for the work on this, Chairman.
Councillor Jones-Evans.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to thank officers for the work on that. And as you said, it's about listening to the trade and what they've said. And I think when the licensing committee were also consulted upon this, I did pick up the issue about the age of the vehicle as well, because I think it seems sensible. If someone's looking after their vehicle, that's the right thing, isn't it? Rather than replacing something that's perfectly usable and in good condition, then why on earth would you say because it's reached 10 years of age, why would you get rid of it? So again, I think Councillor Bacon's very cleverly got on the Biosphere mention in there as well. So yeah, I think it's well done, good listening, and I'm happy to put my hand up for this.
Thank you. Councillor Jordan.
Thank you, Chair. Just to say that whilst it's not a requirement to use green energy powered vehicles and equipment or electric vehicles, actually we've got electric taxis on the island. I've got an app on my phone. It's Go Taxi, and an electric car turns up, and it's pretty good at that too. That's strike 3, Chair, for the Biosphere.
I can assure anyone and everyone that Councillor Bacon has not written the script tonight on the Biosphere and added everything in, but we are taking note of where we're going, what we're trying to do with the Biosphere, and indeed the action points from the same. So it means that we're moving in a cohesive manner, I think. Right. I want to go to the vote. Did we take the vote on that? I can't remember. No, we didn't. Right. All in favour of the option 1? Thank you. Unanimous, thank you. Next report from myself is the approval of street trading policy 2021 to 2026. So we made this time bound, this trading policy. I'd like to say that because the current policy on controlling street trading on the island has been in place since 2014. And so this is visiting that policy and upgrading it to meet current and future requirements. I'd like to draw your attention, because otherwise I'm going to forget when I move into the paper. The option for recommendation is option 1 on the paper, which is to approve and adopt the draft street trading policy as attached to Appendix 1. But what I would like to say is, from the point of view with regards to the street trading, under the legislation, a street is any road, footway, beach or other area to which the public have access without payment, and a service area as defined in section 329 of the Highways Act 1980. I look for a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Jones-Evans. Right, you're going to be pleased with me, because I'm going to go back through the paper, pick out some relevant salient points. I'm going to go to paragraph 10. The street trading policy relates to several corporate priorities of the Isle of Wight Council and the corporate plan of 2021 to 2022, but specifically deliver the statutory regulatory functions to keep the island business residents and visitors safe from harm. So the main thing is that we have a duty for care of our residents and indeed visitors to the Isle of Wight, and indeed the businesses that bring forward their facilities and services to us. What I'd like to say is also a consultation went out on the 10th of November, ended on the 8th of December 2021, and all existing consent holders were contacted directly. In addition, on Monday the 22nd, a briefing session was again held with the licensing committee, where officers presented the revised policy. So licensing is well briefed on the information that is within the policy. What I would like to touch on again is, if you look at paragraph 18, climate and environment and Unesco Biosphere impact. Although the proposed policy doesn't make it a requirement, the use of green-powered energy, what it does say is a long-term program, once again, including incentives, will need to be developed. This Act provides a statutory framework that governs street trading and allows in principle 2 types of permissions to trade: licenses and consents. This gives rise to 2 separate regimes, whereby a local authority can adopt streets as either licensed streets, in which case licenses are granted to traders, or consent streets, in which case a local authority can grant consents to the traders. The licence regime has more onerous requirements, and the council has taken the decision to adopt streets as consent streets. Happy with that? Good. I've got I won't go through the definition of street trading. It's there within the paper. You've no doubt all seen it and read it and understand it. If anyone hasn't, please speak now and I'll go through it. We're okay. Right. Paragraph 23, there's no legal requirement within the Act for the Council to have a policy. However, we need to ensure a consistent approach. We need to safeguard our traders and indeed our community, and once again our tourism, and indeed the customers as a whole, and the passers-by and the people that are pedestrians within the streets, to make sure that trading is dealt with safely, in an adequate way for the trader, but also with safety as a keynote for passers-by and indeed small children, etc. So we need to make sure that the policy makes crime and disorder a key consideration. What I'm going to say now is nothing in the common theme was raised in the responses of the consultation, but there was clarification of business traders at car boot sales to make sure that advantages weren't taken with traders turning up at car boot sales and trading amongst the, can I say, the normal or ordinary members of the public who turn up for car boots. Officers have considered all elements that were put to them during the consultation, and they've all been highlighted and taken note of and referred back to, and some of them have been considered to take forward. I'm going to leave it at that. As I said, the option is to seek approval for the policy for the next few years, to approve and adopt the street trading policy as attached, and you've got the attachment. I'd like to say, well, I've got a seconder. Anyone wish to speak? As I'm just going to, okay, Councillor Jones-Evans.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, very happy to support this this updated version of our street trading policy. As you know, street trading is really important stepping stone for many businesses that want to try out. In fact, I know there's a business that started off with a mobile unit, and they've now got a very thriving, successful business in Ryde Esplanade. So it really can be that way that you can test the market, and test yourself as well and see if you're cut out for this type of business. So it's really, really important. What's really quite interesting about the timing of this is the fact that we're ready with the pop-up opportunity we're going to be having for this summer. We're just about to go out to consultation with the local town and parish councils that are going to be we've identified some sites now. So that's the first stage of consultation. As obviously that it's very important to the alliance that we do consult with local people, and so this policy can back up the criteria that we're putting forward for the pop-ups as well. And we've done the pop-ups in the Newport High Street this Christmas, and again heard from the traders there. Some of them are looking now to have permanent retail units. So it's really is very important and can really underpin the economic activity on the island, and also offer a great amenity to people as well, and gives a bit of variety to our fare that we have on the island. And great to see that there's the impact there, encouraging people to use green energy where possible, and encouraging people to use paper or other disposables that aren't going to be damaging to the environment. So really happy that this has come forward, and happy to second and vote for it.
Thank you. Councillor Fuller.
Thank you. I think, the old policy that we were looking at was very, very out of date, and certainly with the ordinary sort of like CBS checks being not included, and having these having the DBS checked street traders is so important for the well-being of our community. What I think we are going to find is that, with street trading on the island, it can enhance both our ordinary shopkeepers with our extraordinary street traders that do trade from our streets. And I think that is so important. I think we have to have this culture after we've suffered from COVID, and I think anything that we can do to support our street traders and our shoppers and getting our shoppers to go back into our town centres, to make our town centres something extraordinary again. Thank you.
Thank you. No one else wishes to speak? No comments from the scrutiny committee, as formal consultation has been undertaken and elements utilised and agreed with. So we'll move on now to my next item, which is. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm getting over eager. I'd like to move to the vote and. All in favour? I read out the. Totally agreed. Thank you. I didn't even have to finish the sentence, which is great. So now I'm really flying, and I'm moving on to agenda item 9C: development of relocatable homes. And just a moment, please. Thank you. Right. I think this is the one that really, from me, is out of the three papers that I'm bringing forward, is the one that I'm really looking forward to making an impact, and we as an administration are looking forward to making an impact. This report seeks approval from Cabinet to initiate the Relocatable Homes project to help meet the urgent housing needs of the increasing numbers of island families suffering homelessness. And that problem is not diminishing, it's going up virtually as we're sat here. And homelessness, and I'm just going to take a little bit of time out from the paper, because homelessness impacts in so many ways, and it impacts on virtually, it impacts on all our portfolios, it impacts on everyday life within our island. So this is very important, and I can't stress how important it is, but we're proposing the development of 20 by 2-bedroom relocatable homes with affordable rents and running costs. These are not permanent homes. These are stepping stones to help people who are in a terrible situation with regards to homelessness, and some without their own front door, etc. And we're trying to make a pathway through our housing and our homelessness offering. Right, the purpose of the report at this stage is to get the principle to go ahead from Cabinet to pursue the Relocatable Homes project, so that we can get it underway without committing the budget until the necessary full council authorisations can be secured in February. And that's February this year, so that's why we're getting this through now, okay? So this is an urgent matter, and I'm dead keen to shift this along. Project aim is also to achieve close as possible, and once again I look to Councillor Bacon here, close as possible to zero carbon in construction and long-term energy use, in line with the island's climate and environment strategy and its Biosphere designation. I will mention that it's not the first time it's been mentioned tonight, and it won't be the last, I don't think, because we're all going to be picking up on it. But the aims and objectives of this administration wholeheartedly support our Biosphere ambition. I'd like to say that, you know, I won't go too much into this, because I know that Councillor Jones Evans wants to also have input. So what I will do, I'm going to read out in full the recommendation, so that people online and at home and listening to us virtually can understand that the Cabinet, I'm asking the Cabinet to approve either option 3A or 3B to commission, develop and build 20 2-bed relocatable modular homes, subject to the related capital bid being approved by full council in February 2022, and the required borrowing being approved by the Section 151 officer on receipt of a detailed business case. If the capital bid is approved by full cabinet, delegate commissioning decisions and day-to-day project management to the Director of Regeneration, in consultation, and this is where I'm making a slight change as Councillor Jordan did, in consultation with the Cabinet member to ensure minimal time delays to procure and deliver the 20 units of accommodation by 31st December 2023. So I'm making that slight change. That is the recommendation. And I look for a seconder. I've got Councillor Jones-Evans, and Councillor Jones-Evans, you'd like to speak.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you so much for bringing this forward. It's really, really important step on addressing our critical housing need on the Isle of Wight. We all know that there's a double expense for people having to find themselves in that awful situation, especially families who are having to go into bed and breakfast or into a caravan type accommodation. Not only is it a cost to the Isle of Wight Council, there's also the human cost as well, as you know, children don't do so well. Sometimes families have to be split up. That's absolute crisis situation, and we avoid that at all costs. But you know, we're on the knife edge all the time, so I think it's great this has come forward. And the homes that you know, we've been looking at are of really high quality as well. They have to reach that passive house standard, so people living in there will have little, if any, energy bills. Again, as we heard earlier about, this is going to really impact on us and in the forthcoming months, as Councillor Fuller spoke so well of earlier when he talked about the footprint trust. So this is another way that people can have that sort of that cushion, that breathing space. Because this isn't a forever home, this is a temporary home to allow people then to find that long-term accommodation that they need. So it's totally supportive of you, Councillor Stevens, on bringing this forward. And you know, and I think, you know, there's been some comment that we are looking at caravans. We're not looking at caravans. These are highly well-made, constructed, and they have longevity, these homes as well. So I think the ones we've been looking, there's loads across the country, but they tend to have a life cycle for about 60 years. So we will get a lot of use out of those. They can be moved to different locations as needed. So in fact, they look so good. I was quite tempted myself, but no, I just think it's you know, I don't mean to be frivolous. It's really a really important step on our journey, and a great move by the administration. So got my wholehearted support on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fuller.
Thank you, Chairman. I think changes to government policy in the last year or so has made it very, very difficult for tenants of private landlords. We've seen a huge increase in evictions that's taken place. You know, it's not an easy place for ordinary families to be in who don't earn enough money to get to be able to live on their own. When you lose your home, when you lose your finances, when you lose your job, it can be very, very difficult. What I am concerned about is these families that are living in temporary housing, and I know we're talking about 20 homes, but that is a drop in the ocean to the amount of families that we have out there on our housing register. And this goes some step from this administration taking a reactive role to those families that are in dire straits. You know, there are a lot of people on this island, even before COVID, that were spending years in temporary accommodation. That's not acceptable. The island is probably worse than most areas because we have so many problems that befit our ordinary families and our communities. So I can only applaud this and thank Councillor Stevens for bringing this forward. I think you've accelerated the work that was needed on this, and I think we're grateful for your help and support on this. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it's the Alliance administration's aim and objective to move things forward faster pace anyway, Paul, with very differing tenure on properties. It's not just about affordable housing, it's about the rental market, etc. We've got to realise that a lot of the private sector has moved away from renting to island community and gone down the Airbnb circuit and other such things. So I think that what we need to do is get things back on track. I know that, and I'll be quite honest about this. I know that we're turning the ship round here a bit and pushing for this. But I know that across the council chamber, every member is concerned, and with good and you know, really with good reason, because it affects every ward on this island. What I would say, and I'm coming back in, I know that I've got a few more councillors that want to speak, but when you're sat here, you only get one chance, and the leader's back next week, so I'm going to take my time, and this is my moment. I cannot push harder with regard to our homelessness, because homelessness affects every portfolio holder here, but affects our children, it affects their education, it affects public health, there's social care, everything, and down to travel. We've got people in full-time employment. It's not just the people on benefit at the moment who are virtually on the streets. We've got people in full-time employment. In fact, couples that are out to work to try and pull together their rent, and now suddenly they've been priced out the market. And that's the sad thing, that people that have actually managed their family life to go out and work and bring home the money, etc., to pay for their rent and pay for their food and pay for their heating and look after their children, are suddenly left in such desperate circumstances. And you can't begin to understand what that means and what the stresses and strains are on families. And that is why it's imperative that we get people out of bed and breakfast, out of temporary accommodation, and moved along the housing chain. And this will be a housing chain, because hopefully by utilising the type of relocatable units that we'll have, and they will be, they're not just going to be a container slapped up there with a table and chair, and they are going to be of the best quality that this administration can put forward out there as representing our ideals, our principles, and the way that we would like to see things move along. What I would say is, look, I'm going to let others speak, but I'm alongside the leader with this, and in her absence, I'm going to say that she would be mentioning every word that I've mentioned, because the one thing that the leader and myself said when we came in as the administration was, we not you or I, but we will take over and run the housing element of this council, and we're going to do it, and we're going to do it to the best of our ability. I'll leave it at that, and I'll bring here. Sorry to rabble on, but as I say, that was my moment for the week. I'm going to bring in Johnson Bacon, Councillor Bacon.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, this is great. I mean, the key point to make is that these are proper home units, that they're not caravans or border cabins or whatever. I've seen some examples, and they are proper little homes. They're good. I'm glad you mentioned the biosphere element. I'm glad you didn't mention all of it, because it's nearly a page of the paper, but it's good to note that the intent is that these are constructed to passive house standards. Another odd word tonight. It's not quite fossiliferous, is it? But passive house, German for passive house. It's quite easy to see how the Enigma code got broken there, I suppose. But that is really good. And the fact that these are going to have good energy usage, etc., it ties in with what I was saying earlier about you put the biosphere in and you work it through. So it's not just making something, it's not just making something that's affordable, it's something that's affordable to live in, it's something that does the job and does it in a sustainable way. So I'm really happy to see this. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Andre.
Thank you, Chairman. I think I've been set a bit of a challenge to avoid duplication, hesitation and alliteration, but I'll do my best. Make no mistake, we have a housing crisis. The Alliance administration have recognised this and have made this a priority. But I'm absolutely delighted with this paper because a lot of the measures people will appreciate are medium to long-term measures. There's very few things that can be quick fixes. And whilst this paper starts off a process, this is something that we can actually do now that will be something that can be brought forward in a relatively short time frame, because it's now that our island residents need this help. I've had experience within my own ward of families being in bed and breakfast. It's not the right place for them to be on so many levels. Whilst Councillor Bacon quite rightly promotes the biosphere through our papers, I also have the impact on young people and future generations as an element of our standing element of our papers, because it's absolutely right that we consider the impact of all our decisions. And like Councillor Bacon, I'm not going to actually read out all of the implications, but make no mistake, lack of suitable housing has an incredibly serious and long-reaching effect on our island children. And these 20 units of high-quality accommodation will make a significant difference. But this is not the final thing. This is something that, if you'll pardon the expression, we will build on, because we do recognise that we need to take action on this housing crisis. We need to take ownership of this and of this issue, and it's exactly what we're doing as an Alliance administration. So I am fully in support of this, and I commend Councillor Stevens and his team for bringing this forward in this really fast time frame. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm looking around. Councillor Jarman.
So they'll come on Deep Passive House. This is a truly innovative and affordable, stressing the word, fast-track approach to starting to tackle the issue of homelessness on the island. I wasn't going to say anything, but I really feel compelled to do it, and to recognise that this whole initiative led by you, sir, is to be highly commended.
Councillor Jordan. Did I overlook you? Never.
Chair, I wasn't going to speak because, well, I wasn't going to speak, but a word then. Just great. It's great. We've come in as administration in the face of huge financial difficulties that this council's in. We have decided and managed to deliver houses of this nature. Houses, you know, not caravans, not mobile homes, houses. Great, fantastic. Paul mentioned it's a start. I noticed in the report the team have identified 200 families that are in urgent need. 20 is 10%. You know, we've got a way to go, but 20 is better than zero. You know, at the moment we've got zero. It's 20 more, a start. If we can find some more money, I know we'll do some more, and you know, try and get some better solution for those that are the least able and least well off in our community on this island, to help them. So it's just great. We're all saying it's a great move, and thank you, Ian, and the team for bringing it forward quite quickly since last year. It's great. It's, you know, what can you say? How can we not say we're pleased that we're doing this? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Jordan, and thank you, Councillor Jarman, as well, because, you know, you just thank me. I'll tell you what, we've got a very, very good team, and it's not just the members. We've got some good officers on board, and I think that some of the background message about, as you quite rightly said, Councillor Jordan, 200, and we're offering 20. We've got a long way to go, but I'll tell you what, we're not just aspirational. We're there for the reality of it. We're there to try and move things forward. And to me, that's what it's about. People will suddenly start to realise that this administration is one that will endeavour and hopefully bring forward a delivery. Now, we know the same with our social care, whether it's children's or adult. We know that the challenges are rising all the time. It's the same with homelessness and the same with housing. But we're not going to sit back and accept that we're in dire straits. We're going to actually endeavour to get out of that and become a progressive and positive Isle of Wight Council that moves things forward. We'll embrace the challenges. We'll meet the challenges, and in actual fact, we'll take them head on, and we'll deal with them. And people say about transparency. I'll tell you what, transparency is not just putting things out in the public domain. It's actually proving that it's out there and preaching the gospel and giving the people the hope. You don't just want aspiration. You need the hope. And by taking on the challenges such as we are here, and we've got to take this through in February. Once again, and my good friend and colleague, Councillor Jarman, will be imploring people to support what we're trying to deliver. And that's what I say about this chamber. When this chamber is full of council members, and we've got a crisis as an island crisis, this is not politics. This is about our people, and we've got to deliver on it. And I want to make sure, and I would love to see everyone's hand go up and say, yes, we can support that, because that is the way that the people are elected to represent their community on the Isle of Wight Council. Right, on that we're going to the vote. I'll make no bones about this. We will move to the vote. But before I do that, I've got to read out corporate scrutiny, development of relocatable homes. 1, the committee formally supported the recommendations and requested that the Policy and Scrutiny Committee for Neighbourhoods and Regenerations should monitor the delivery of actions. And 2, Policy and Scrutiny Committee for Neighbourhood and Regeneration requested to consider establishing a task and finish group to look at innovative ways of providing social housing. And let's face it, as I said at the start, anyone got any ideas, bring them forward. Councillor Jones Evans, myself, and Councillor Laura PC Wilcox will be only too pleased to listen to anyone with an inkling of an idea. And that goes for people out in the community, to people within council, to our staff as well. We would look at things in a positive light. All in favour, please? Unanimous. Thank you. Right. Thank you very much indeed, members. And thank you for allowing my indulgence, because, as I say, I'm only sat here once. I don't want the job. I'm going to be over there next week or the week after. Oh, I don't. Right, now we've got 9D, which is not one of mine. It's actually Councillor Jarman. It's amendments to the Covert surveillance policy.
Thank you, Chair. You're a very tough act to follow, you know. But now we come on to the meat and potatoes that you've all been waiting for. I don't think I can really be terribly brief on this. You're probably aware from the papers, which I'm sure you've studied thoroughly, that there is such a thing as the Regulation of Investigatory Powers Act, which goes back to 2000, and that we as a council are required to have a policy and to keep it up to date. The principal aim here is that one of preventing and detecting crime or of preventing disorder on the island. It's a necessary activity that we fulfill. There was a review carried out by the Investigatory Powers Commissioner's Office back in 2016. There were a couple of items that came up from that. Those have been incorporated in previous policies. The base element that originates from is the Home Office Code of Conduct, which was itself updated in 2018, and it is necessary that we therefore incorporate the recent review that we've had in 2020 and the changes to that code of practice by updating our own documentation. These powers have only been used effectively once in the last 36 months, which was for an activity related to the prevention and detection of a benefit fraud. And the revised policy is here before you for your acceptance or rejection, as you may have seen fit this evening. There's nothing else I really want to say about this. You will have read the documents, they're fairly self-explanatory, and it is a regulatory requirement update. So the recommendation is that the Cabinet notes the recent IPCO investigation findings in Appendix 1. You'll record the note of the exemplary referral which was made to the recent use of those powers, and that you accept the proposed amendments to the policy as in Appendix 2 before you this evening. So I'll look for someone to second that proposal. Thank you, Councillor Bacon.
Thank you. Corporate scrutiny have no formal comment on this item. Councillor Bacon.
I just think it's interesting. In a paper on covert surveillance, we have a letter from the Investigatory Powers Commissioner, and it's got some bits blacked out in it.
Sorry, redacted.
Anyway, as for biosphere impact, I'm afraid I can't talk about that.
Any other comment, please? I'll move to the vote. All in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Right, now we're on to item 10, Cabinet Member announcements. So, Councillor Jones-Evans.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to really talk about. Sorry, trying to get my computer off my notes from here again. Just want to talk about the grant for the Omicron hospitality and leisure grant that's coming from government that the Isle of Wight Council will be distributing. There'll be a press release coming out Monday, but I just must urge everyone who's listening and all members of the council that to get the message out there, because the businesses have to apply for this. It won't be, as it has been in the past, we go through the register and just send a check out. There's a lot more stricter checks and balances this time. The government have asked for, and also we have to get all the money out the door by the 28th of February. So it's really important that people respond and react quickly. And if you've got anyone you think is in that sector, then please remind them to apply for it. And then there'll be the additional restrictions grant. That will be a press release coming out a few days later. That's a fund of money for people that have been affected by the recent Omicron variant, that businesses have been affected but aren't part of the hospitality and leisure sector. So these might be other businesses that have had an effect, and they will then have to apply and to the council to get some additional funding that way. We won't, in the past, we've looked at that as a first come, first serve. We won't be doing that this time. Again, it's a very short window. We'll get all this money out the door. Rather, all of the, there'll be a deadline of, I think it's about the 20th of February, something like that, but it will be in the press release. And then all of the applications will then be assessed en masse. And then the grants allocated as a result of that. The Economic Development Board will be doing that work. So they just really want to let everyone know that it's an application process, short window. So spread the word, get applying. So
Can I just come in on that,
yes.
Councillor Jones-Evans, because we've got the media here, and it's important that we get that message out as soon as possible, because, as you say, there's only a short window to get the information to the relevant people that want to claim, and without that, we'll be sending money back, and that will be a travesty from our island. So do you want to come back? And I know that Councillor Jarman wants to come in.
So it's so Monday is a day where we're going large with the media and social media, and all our media agencies will get the press release. So there, I've got two more things to announce, but Councillor Jarman, did you want to do it in your? Okay, right, that's okay. Just another thing was the levelling up. We had the East House consultation event last month, which I attended. There was some really good attendance. Over about 120 people came over the couple of days. We had to cut that short because of the COVID rates at that time, but really pleased. And so yeah, the going ahead with the grant claim process for that levelling up money. And just one last thing, I know I suppose to keep it brief, going on to the cultural side, our cultural regeneration, the Island Collection, who are going to be our lead organisation for all things arts on the island at the moment. They've got their first networking event, February the 9th, 6 till 8 p.m. at the Classic Boat Museum in East Cowes. And this is an opportunity for people to come and network, find out about how they can make the most of the Arts Council focus on the island as part of their priority place. And thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Joan, Debbie Andre, you wanted to come in?
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of items from me. I'm delighted to say that we've had a very positive return to school. We've not had the same level of staff absence, and everything is face-to-face for all classes currently. And our attendance rate on the island is 90% overall as of last Friday, compared to 86% nationally. And I think that speaks volumes about all of the hard work that has gone into keeping our schools open. So I'm absolutely delighted with that. And a second thing for me is a reminder that the admissions process for primary schools for September 22, the deadline is this Saturday, the 15th of January. So if there are any parents out there that have not yet submitted an application for primary school for this September, the deadline is this Saturday, and they can apply through the Isle of Wight Council website. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Andre. Councillor Bacon.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be very brief. I'd just frankly like to point out that with the Biosphere paper passing this evening, for my portfolio, we've achieved 3 major aims. We now have a climate change strategy and action plan. We have the dark skies policy in place, and we now have the Biosphere integrated, or starting to be integrated, into council policy. And as Councillor Andre noted, evidence of that, well, we've had a few comments during the evening noting that the biosphere is being taken into account in decisions, as climate change, as I hope we will see that formally identified in future papers, poverty, and of course, as I was saying, Councillor Andre said, young people. And because all this work is actually for young people and ensuring there's a future for them in what we do. The one other thing I'd like to mention very briefly is that the fly tipping task and finish group, after some delays, met for the first time earlier this week. And are going to be several meetings, and we will look forward to producing a report as to how to deal with issues. I know it's quite shocking, but I don't want to talk about enforcement and so on, because we're going to look at that in a future group. But I think one thing we have noticed is that the procedures that exist could be simpler, and we're going to undertake some work to see if they can be simplified. And part of that is educating people on procedures and also just the litter system. A particular point of note, not sorry to bring things down a bit, but dog poo, bagging it up and what you can do with it. It is very much the case, and it seems that people still don't get this, that you can put it in any council waste bin. It doesn't have to be a dog bin. We had instances reported at the group of seeing people bagging up dog mess and then leaving it beside a bin. It just creates extra work, extra expense. It's not necessary. The phrase being used elsewhere, and we may roll it out here, is any bin will do. Although I do hear Jason Donovan singing it in my head. So yes, the message is any bin will do. And if someone wants to come up with lyrics for the song, great. Thank you.
Councillor Bacon, comedy is my forte, please. Councillor Fuller.
Thank you, Chairman. At the Conservative Party conference, the Prime Minister mentioned about how we should be opposing greenfield developments. That's brought in quite a lot of correspondence from members of the public. One of the things that we take with this is it does come with a little bit of a health warning, because government is still committed to developing 300,000 homes every year. That was a manifesto pledge. That is as is. I think one of the things that we are looking forward to is that within the new housing, the planning white paper that is being processed, we are hoping that there may be amendments in accordance with what the PM has said, but at the moment we don't know precisely what that is, so that will be quite interesting to watch. That says, we're still getting quite a lot of comments from residents concerning highlighting and ensuring that we develop our brownfield sites, our ordinary brownfield sites, is being prioritised. And what we're seeing is we are seeing hints from government, and we've had a lot of support from government to incentivise those brownfield sites being developed. I think that should be welcomed. In December, we held an update to councillors on the island plan. I think we had about 25 councillors, both from the Isle of Wight Council, but from town and parish councils as well, that attended that briefing. It was a very short briefing, very, very informative, and it is available online, and I know the links have been sent out. One of the things that I'm interested in trying to do is looking at reviewing our Airbnbs on the island. Nationally, there are a problem with Airbnbs. What was extraordinary 5 years ago is now getting quite ordinary, in the fact that people are using private rented accommodation for Airbnbs, and that is squeezing the market very much and increasing our housing needs, as was mentioned earlier on. I attended a meeting earlier on this week at Bembridge, and one of the outcomes from that meeting was the need to update our neighbourhood plans. I've got a session with Bembridge Parish Council on Monday, where we're talking with the Parish Council about that. But I know that another area that also has issues with current planning applications and the ability to use their neighbourhood plans correctly is Freshwater as well. And I'm looking forward to meeting with Freshwater Parish Council in the future. We also have a lot of ordinary empty properties on across the island, and we are talking with officers about taking action against some of these empty properties to see them brought back into action. There are a few across the island that are concerns to residents and to town and parish councils, and discussions are taking place between myself and the planning team to see those houses, where those empty properties, particularly in Sandown, Debbie, I can see you looking at me, but these buildings coming into future use. Empty properties does nothing for regenerating our town centres and our local communities, and we need to address that. Finally, there are issues continuing with the Isle of Wight Council's planning portal. I'm still talking to officers to try to redress those, and hopefully there will be a solution that comes forward. I know that action has been taken. That action has been quite positively received, but we're still some way to go, as you will be aware, Councillor Stevens. But that is in relation to our lovely planning portal. So hopefully things will get better. Thank you.
After the, I know that Councillor Jarman wants to come in. I know we'll save you until last, Phil. I'm not going to make comment at all. I think I've had my say this evening. No. So I'm sorry to disappoint. Councillor Jarman.
Thank you, Leader. Well, first of all, I should thank Councillor Fuller for mentioning the West Wight and his forthcoming trip to Freshwater, and perhaps on that trip we'll have a chance for a photo opportunity with him enjoying some of the wonderful fish and chips from the Rainbow Fish Bar. Secondly, to thank him for reminding us of the health warning regarding the continuing contradiction between the Prime Minister's statements and the Conservative policy as regarding housing numbers. It's always important to understand the depth of that contradiction. But most importantly is just to remind everyone that we are in the middle of a budget consultation. And I would like to encourage everyone here this evening, everyone listening, the media, et al., to do whatever they can to circulate the link to that budget consultation and to encourage people to participate in it. The results so far have been very encouraging indeed. The last I heard was we are over 700 responses already. So clearly our strategy of decluttering that exercise has proved very well, and taking the leader Laura BC Wilcox's advice and taking out lots of the numbers and complexity associated with it has paid back very well. None of them were red, none of them were blue, they were all in there, and now we've got a much simplified view, and I think we're going to get a broader view from the residents of the island of exactly where they see their priorities and where they want to encourage us, and we shall listen to that with open ears. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Moving on from Councillor Jarman to Councillor Jordan.
Thank you, Chair. Very brief. In addition to the other great things that I have in my portfolio of the floating bridge, seems to be of interest to lots of people on this island, rightly so. The PFI, the ongoing gift that keeps giving us, and trying to resolve some of the ongoing issues with that. I just wanted to say that that the other great concern of many islanders are the ferries, and that as an administration on your behalf, it hasn't been forgotten. They are not forgotten in our efforts, and you may be pleased to know that working with a local transport expert and Lord Tony Barclay in the House of Lords, we are managing to get questions asked of the Minister directly. They're in Hansard, if you want to go check them, and the answers. And that currently on our behalf, Lord Barclay lives on the Isle of Scilly. His interest in ferries comes from his own ferry company, but he's interested in island ferries, so he's helping us immensely on this, and on our behalf has sent 3 letters to the 3 main ferry companies. For your benefit and memory, back in 2009, I think it was, the OFT did a report on the ferries, and the ferry operators, albeit voluntary, gave some commitments to the OFT, and the letters have gone to them asking them if they have complied with them. So I will update you when those replies come, if the ferry companies have stuck with their commitments or not. But I'm just want you to know that the ferries are not forgotten. They are important to us as an island. And whilst I'm still trying to sort the floating bridge and the PFI out, ferries haven't been forgotten. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. And the news with regard to the ferries is, you know, quite enlightening, because to hear nothing and you think nothing's being dealt with, but behind the scenes, you're still working away and trying to get results. So thank you very much for that, Councillor Jordan. I'm going to move on now to, I'm going to check this, the forward plan, which I have here. Identify any decisions which need to be amended and added or removed from the forward plan. I'm looking around and I'm about to leap in, if I can find my copy of the forward plan. Just like that. Thank you. Oh, there it is. Yeah, I was alerted to the situation with regards to the Nettleston area that we're looking at for development. There's disposal of land at Nettleston, and it's on page 8 if you have a copy. If not, then take it as read. I'm going to tell you it's the disposal of the disposal is to bring forward a 100% affordable housing scheme with a housing association for local people in housing need. At the moment, it was put in there. We weren't alerted to that, and I have taken that forward in the appropriate manner, and so it's on there. I've left it on there, but it slips now from the 10th of February to March, so that we can discuss with the local member, as we would do, and also discuss what we're doing with the site and how we're doing it. Although it says disposal of land, part exempt, the report may have confidential appendices, so we're not going any further with that. But we have consultees, and in the usual way that this administration works, we're talking with the Isle of Wight councillor and parish council and the community in the area. Okay, so that's the consultees we're dealing with, but that's been slipped from February to March on page 8, I think it was, yeah. So that's all I've got to put in there. Anyone else got anything? Oh, Councillor Debbie Andre.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to highlight that to the next Cabinet meeting, we will be bringing a paper on the outcome of the consultation on the future of Chillerton and Rookley Primary School, which I know is an issue of concern to many people. I'd just like to thank everyone that took part in the survey, the recent survey. We had 212 responses, which has given us a good evidence base. And we are currently drawing up a paper from those responses. As other colleagues have said, we are a listening administration, so we will be using those responses to draft a paper that will come to Cabinet. Thank you.
Anyone else wanting to add to the forward plan? Thank you for that little bit of information from the forward plan. I didn't see it, but wherever it is on the forward plan, that was good. Right, moving on to members' question time. We have two questions, I believe, that Councillor Jones-Evans, sorry?
Chairman, I think the questions have come to me rather than Councillor Jones-Evans.
Right, sounds good to me. Councillor Paul Fuller, thank you for the volunteering. And have you got a copy of the questions?
Would you like me to read out the questions that have come, or no? So there has been a written response to
Well,
those questions.
I'm happy that the councillor is involved and took the time to write in, do get a written response.
Yeah.
And I think that's fair comment at this moment.
I think the questions that they have made are very, very relevant, very, very pertinent, and I think worthy of a response. So I'd like to thank Councillor Oliver and Councillor Price for their questions. And
thank you very much indeed.
Written response can be sent to them as they're not here.
I'm being prompted by the Chief Exec of the Isle of Wight Council to ask if there are any members on the screen who have a comment or a question. I see no hands up, so I'll take it. Thank you very much indeed. There is nil response from our virtual members.
I can see now what the last one
No, I can't. I can't. I've moved on.
That's, I've got more in here for you.
Right. I'm looking to see that. I think that's the end of the meeting. I'm looking forward. So, thank you very much for your indulgence. Thank you very much for allowing me to chair the meeting. It's been a great event in my life, and I'm going to say a fond farewell and welcome back Councillor P.C. Wilcox when she arrives and takes over again. Thank you. Meeting closed.
Chair,